TrekWars, Duels Across the Stars. Episode 25, Where No One Has Gone Before. Top 5 locations.
13 years ago, before the rise of the Outlander, Star Trek and Star Wars had been prospering for decades. But in the dark corner of a galaxy, a powerful podcast was formed to bring knowledge of the Old Republic to the Milky Way. Ootinicast has sent their most daring pilot a secret mission to the Badlands, where two ensigns have discovered a clue to the best locations in Star Trek and Star Wars. Hello, welcome to our 25th episode. I nearly got tongue-tied right at the end there, and I hope Olympus has got the right screen up and running, because I can't remember if he done it, so...
Oh no, I did. I got it right.
Yeah. Hey. So, we've got for our quarter of a century, we've got from Ootinicast, our guest host and founding member of Ootinicast. Anyway, introduce yourself, Chill. So, before
yeah, nice to be on. Yeah, I'm Chill. I'm the co-host of the Ootinicast, and we are the longest running Star Wars: The Old Republic podcast out there. We're on almost our 500th episode, and because we were weekly originally, and then about a few years in, we started going every other week, so bi-weekly or semi-weekly. Those two phrases are always, really awkward. So every 2 weeks is how we do it now, and it's really nice to be here. It's really fun. I've been checking out your YouTube channel, and it looks like there's a lot of fun stuff on there. There's a lot. I've barely scratched the surface, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. And also, I'm glad to join you here today. By the way, if I sound a little echoey, I moved recently. I have some acoustic baffling stuff coming, but I have not. Hasn't arrived yet, so I have not put it up. I'm a little echoey, and I have been ever since the move, a few weeks ago. So sorry about that.
That's it. It probably won't be any worse than my audio, so hey ho. So, but no, thank you for coming. And I don't think I've introduced myself. I'm Ben, and my co-host is
Olympus. Great to be back here for our 25th episode, and thank you so much for joining us as well, Chill. Looking forward to getting into hearing some of our top 5 locations from across the Star Trek and Star Wars franchises.
Fun stuff, yeah. Really cool idea for a subject. I like it.
Thank you. Sorry, I was going to say I like the idea myself as well, but it's going to sound weird if I say that. So, yeah.
It was your idea then.
Yeah, yeah. It is. So, just for anybody who is new to this, basically we go through our top 5 list on a subject. Today's subject, actually, I don't think we've mentioned, is locations. So that could. Oh, basically, I was going to give you what that could be, but we have our own rules for that. So this could be from Star Trek, Star Wars, and probably more than likely, at least a few answers from the Old Republic. And before I start muttering myself to death again, Olympus, do you want to set off with your rules for picks and anything you have to say as well?
Yeah, so in terms of my rules, it has to be a specific localized location. So I have not picked an entire planet. It's if I have picked a location on a planet, it is a specific location. I have not put rules around distance or anything in there because I'd have been here all night. But that's really my only rule. And I kind of break it at least once. I'm not great with my rules. I use them as guidelines than actual rules. So at least once I kind of break that, but you'll see why later on. How about you, Chill?
Okay. I did not do that rule. I went kind of the opposite. Well, actually, what I wanted to do was because I know SWTOR well, I wanted to kind of focus on places that appear in SWTOR, but there are a lot of places in SWTOR that also appear in the larger canon as well, both the current official canon as well as the legends. And so most of mine will sort of have some familiarity to people who don't know anything about SWTOR or KOTOR, which was sort of its Knights of the Old Republic, is sort of like the first video game that BioWare did, set way before the Battle of Yavin. And Star Wars: The Old Republic is set about 300 years after KOTOR. So it's pretty close to KOTOR, but not like right on top of it or anything. But it's still like 3,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. So because of that, though, I needed to pick something that was a little broader. So most of mine are planets or broad locations like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool. Now, because we have done top 5 planets before, we've done top 5 starships, I've decided to go similar to Olympus, go a bit more specialized, or at least in the way of, if it's a planet, I've gone for somewhere more specific. If it's something in a starship, I've gone for something more specific. So I was up for doing bigger areas, but to be honest, that hasn't really come up in my list. So it's just gone more specific. So yeah, that's me. Nothing really fancy there. Olympus, do you want to go first?
Okay. I'll crack straight into it. I'm going to go to Star Wars, and I'm going to go to Revenge of the Sith and Mustafar, specifically the lava rivers that lead to the lava falls. I think the whole ambience and energy of the scene there just really sets itself up lovely as this quite dark, foreboding, but energetic setting, which just fits beautifully with that epic battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan as they're dueling across that station and then across the physical lava as well. It just made for a super cool setting, and then you get to see little elements of it again in future media. I think it was Rogue One. We see a little touch of it off in the distance, as you can see Vader's castle. And unfortunately, you don't get to see the lava side of Mustafar in The Rise of Skywalker, but you do see Mustafar. I didn't realise that's where Ren was when I first watched that movie at the very start, but when he's like slaughtering all the inhabitants to get to the holocron. But yeah, apparently he's on Mustafar. Which was news to me, because it looks totally different. It must be a different part of the planet to what you saw in Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, it just.
Well, I think when I was making up this list, I kind of realized there is, and I think we'll talk about this, but I think there is a lot of sort of like one planet, one biome sort of that is a very common trope in both Star Wars and Star Trek.
It is.
And there's a lot of reasons for it, simplicity and not having to make every planet look like like Earth exactly, but also I think a lot of it comes down to like the sort of story that, like, especially the first story that is ever set on a planet, like what sort of story wants to be told there, and that sort of like sets the tone. And then there's not really a lot of reason to necessarily make a planet like a whole lot different after that. So it's like you get forest moons and ice planets of Hoth and all that sort of thing. Yeah, that seems to be a trope. So it's interesting that Mustafar is sort of an exception to that, because if any planet I would have guessed was like all lava all the time, pretty much, or at least blasted wastelands and nothing but, that probably would have been my choice.
Yeah, same, exact same.
Yeah, I suppose it does keep it in our heads. It's like, that's the sand planet, that's the ice cold planet. So,
that's the city planet. That's the city planet that was obliterated.
Yeah. Then you have the ocean planets and
Manaan. Manaan's gorgeous.
Manaan.
I love the music in KOTOR when you're on Manaan. Sorry, digression. I'm good at that as well, Phil. But that is my number 5. Who wants to go next?
Okay.
Do you want to Give it a go.
All right. Since I didn't realize we're going 5 through 1, but I'll go ahead and go on my list 5 through 1. That way I can stay on board. But I didn't really choose it in sort of a way that's like I'm trying to be more whatever on the way up or down. So I just kind of chose 5 places that I liked.
Oh, amazing.
And most of these, like I say, most of these will be pretty familiar to, or at least potentially familiar to people outside of SWTOR. This one's pretty specific to SWTOR, though, and the SWTOR world. It's Nathema. And Nathema was the planet that the Sith Emperor, who was like the big bad throughout like the hundreds of years, like he lives about almost 1,000 years, I think, total. And especially during like the SWTOR period. But he started on Nathema, and it was part of the Sith Empire when it had sort of broken away and sort of hidden itself away from the Republic, and they were not in active war or anything like that. In fact, the Republic had more or less thought they had died out. The Sith had died out. But they had established like this little quadrant of the galaxy that was sort of away from everything else. And Nathema was basically a pretty normal and mostly aggro planet that sort of like fed the other planets in the Sith Empire, until the Emperor gathered most of the Sith who were on that planet for this dark ritual, basically pulled all of the power from them into him, and in the process, it also destroyed all life on Nathema. It became a completely dead world, and it's really interesting when you come across in the story. You can read about it in Star Wars: The Old Republic Revan, and so basically, especially anyone, it does weird things like lightsabers barely work on Nathema because like the connection to the Force is basically broken there. People who are attuned to the Force tend to have pretty serious effects on them. They tend to feel dizzy, sort of out of sorts. Even non-Force using people who go there tend to be affected as well. It's like that severe. In SWTOR itself, you can actually play through some of the game and actually go visit Nathema a couple of times. And interestingly, like not only is it blasted and dead for the most part the first time, but after the fall of the Emperor, life actually returns to Nathema, and it's still very blasted and damaged in a lot of ways, but you also have like these plants and stuff that are starting to grow up all over, and it's just an amazing world because of this. Like it makes, when you read about it, it makes you think, okay, like how much life can exist in this galaxy without the Force? Is it even possible for there to be life in the Star Wars galaxy without the Force? And what does that look like when it's completely removed from an area? In this case, the effects of Nathema sort of breaking away from the Force could even be felt above the surface, like for ships that were in orbit around Nathema. So it's clearly like it was a massive effect. And this ritual was enough that the Emperor basically became immortal and gained a lot of his powers as well. And there's a lot more to the Emperor's story, of course, but this was sort of his start, and you can read about it in Revan, and then, like I say, you can play through it in Star Wars: The Old Republic as well.
I remember going to that Nathema for the first time, and it was the first time I really had any or knowledge of it, and in Star Wars: The Old Republic and the MMO. And yeah, it was creepy when we then down there. I think we went down there was Lana, Benico, and had Farron as a pilot, I think, or something like that. And it was, yeah, it did have that. They managed to do that flashpoint very well. Give it, I think, was it a flashpoint for the first one or the second?
The first time you see it, when it's still blasted, that's one of the chapters. That's a chapter from Knights of the Eternal Throne, and then when you come back, it's in a flashpoint, and the green has started to return, and life is sort of resprung there, which is an interesting thought, because I wouldn't have necessarily said yes as soon as the Emperor's dead, life might return to Nathema. I could have just completely assumed that it would just be dead forever. Or at least tens of thousands of years until maybe somehow it's sort of like life sort of leached back onto it. But instead, it's sort of like it's a very immediate and startling effect. So clearly, like he still had some sort of weird connection to it that was broken upon his death.
Yeah, no,
One of his deaths.
Yeah.
The Emperor loves
to come back again.
The Emperor loves to not quite die.
He does indeed.
No, definitely reminded me of something I wanted to read, and that was the Revan book, and I've got to do that again. So
that's on my to-read list. I've just started reading the first Thrawn novel because I've always wanted to get around to them, and finally started. So Revan's after that trilogy for me.
Nice. Yeah, there are 4 Star Wars: The Old Republic novels. They're all worth reading. My favorite is probably Deceived. It centers on Darth Malgus and the attack on Coruscant and the Jedi Temple specifically. And also a bunch of stuff that's around that, but that's sort of like one of the main highlights. So if you've seen the Deceived Star Wars: The Old Republic trailer, that scene is actually like played out within the novel, which is really cool because you also get to see, you know, other things that are happening in other places around it when it happens, and some of the effects that happen because of it, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So Deceived is my favorite. And then Revan is probably my second favorite. There's also one that centers on Theron Shan and one that centers on Satil Shan. And those are both fun too, and they're totally worth reading. They're a little more like action adventure stories than Theron's is about like trying to make sure that like this new spacecraft that's very powerful and sort of force connected has to get stopped. And Satil Shan's is all about this sort of like weird force ritual stuff that's so you know, depending on which style of story you like, you might like Theron Shan's one more, which is called Annihilation, and or you might like Satil Shan's one, which the name is escaping me for a second. I always remember it at some point. It's usually like a day later. It's like my 4th favorite, unfortunately. I like Satil Shan, but for some reason the story never really grabbed me the way the others did. But Revan's really, really fun. You do actually see Nathma. You get to see Drummun Kaas. You get to see a lot of cool stuff that you actually see in SWTOR for sure.
Wow.
And also the story's really good too. But Deceived is still my favorite.
No, that sounds like it's something I've been threatening to do for ages, and it's like I will seriously make an effort at doing that. Yeah. Anyway, before we end up being here forever, I'm going to go into my number 5. No, that's fine. I loved it. I loved listening to it. But I'm going to go stay in actually Star Wars: The Old Republic, because now I had Chill on it, it's like made me rethink of a lot of places I like there. And I'm actually, one of my favourite places to go was my characters was a starship graveyard on Hoth. Just because
good choice.
As it says, it's a graveyard of starships, and you can go in certain ones. There's one that's a bit more open where you can just go in at any time, and then there's a couple others where you can go into part of it called the thingy of Coruscant, and I've really
Star of Coruscant.
I had the Heart of Gold in my head, and I started combining
Douglas Adams, yeah. Awesome.
And I started combining those, which you go into.
Yeah, I love the Star of Coruscant. I think I agree with you. Yeah, it's a great place. And it's really one of the cool things is because you can, you know, ride around on it near it, and you can and you're not even seeing the whole length of the Star of Coruscant. You're just seeing a section of it where it's crashed, and then like, you know, you're not allowed to go like, you know, off the map. And it's clearly like multiple kilometers long that you can see. So like it really is a great way to get a sense of scale of some of these huge capital ships.
Yeah, and I went through a phase quite late onto my Star Wars: The Old Republic playing, going through the Datacrons, and there's a couple around there. I think definitely 2 in there, and there's one that actually involves you climbing up on the Star of Coruscant, which
I remember it well.
I did solo. I hate jumping puzzles, but I actually done that one by myself, and actually done it first. Actually, was it? I can't remember if it was first time or second time, because one of the times I definitely fell down a hole on the thing.
Right.
So yeah, which was quite fun. Enjoyed that. So
That's great. Yes. When the game launched, you actually, like, if you wanted the bonuses from every Datacron, you actually had to do it on every character. But nowadays, a few years after launch, they changed it so it's legacy wide. So you do it on one character and you're kind of done with that Datacron, unless you decide to play on another server. Yeah. But some of those were tricky, and especially back when I was like, because I'm very much an alcoholic, I played new characters all the time, and going in back and doing those Datacrons over and over again was like really painful, because some of them are very tricky. The other one that's actually inside the Star of Coruscant is really tricky because it involves all these really slow moving things, and if you miss the jump, then you fall down. You have to run around and wait like a minute for it to come back to its original place.
Yes, yeah, that one I found actually, because it's like crates, I think, big cargo crates, I believe, and that one I actually, even though it's shorter in duration and less jumps, it was just like, yeah, there was more chance of mistakes in my head, and it was just like, I got more frustrated with that one. I think there is a third one, but I haven't done that because it involves you finding a droid somewhere else on Hoth.
Yeah, it's like a melting thing, and I remember that one.
Yeah,
that one's
so
all right. Some of them are more about like discovery than they are about like the actual jumping and stuff like that. And also they tend to be like a couple of the ones on the earlier planets are sort of just there to let you know that they exist. So some of them are like super easy. You just kind of have to like notice that they're there and hear the little noise. And then it gets harder as you go on. There's like more and more jumping.
It is.
And then there's the ones that you first come across, and you hear them, and you look around, and you finally look up. It's like, oh, there it is, all the way up there. And then you're standing for half an hour looking around, going, how the hell do you get up
How
there?
the hell does that work? Yeah.
And the start is like halfway at the other side of the map.
Right. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times where you can see it is not where you actually start from. It's actually somewhere else, but it's just kind of to let you know that it exists. There's those are a lot of fun.
One of those, they are. But yeah, I think we might have told the story. But yeah, me and Olympus were playing. Oh, I think we we're probably streaming it, and we were on Terrace, and it was like, we were under one. I'm going, here it is, like it's up there. We spent half an hour trying to work out, because we thought, oh no, we won't look at the guides. We'll see if we can work it out, and we just went, we'll do it
That's
later
cool.
when we look at because we couldn't do it. So, but I still enjoyed that. I love ancient ruins. So back to my pick of Starship Graveyard. Whether that's Roman roads in real life or starships, I love it, and I suppose that's not
Yeah, I totally agree, and it was a nice way of bringing Hoth back, but making it feel different from Empire, like because Empire, like, it was so much later on, and it was apparently just an ice ball before then. So like, how do you make Hoth interesting? Having this big star, multiple fleet fight that ends up with a bunch of ships crashing down in this location, and then everyone's sort of like scrounging for they're either pirates who just want to get whatever's valuable, or they're Empire or Republic type people who want to steal each other's secrets or whatever. There's a lot of good stories to be had there.
Definitely. So that's my number 5 pick. Swing back to the start, and I don't know which side you are on for me on your screen, Olympus, but wherever you are, she'll go.
Thank you. So I'm going to jump to Star Trek for this next one, and we're going to beam down to Starfleet Academy. For starters, I love anytime you see it in the movies or the TV shows. I just love that scenic panoramic view you kind of get of the ocean with Starfleet Academy and the Golden Gate Bridge running across. But the Starfleet Academy I love the most is the version that you've got in Star Trek Online, where you can actually start there after the tutorial, and you can go back down whenever you want. And I find myself sometimes just walking around the campus, going into the bar, having an explore around, looking over the banister out to the Golden Gate Bridge, occasionally seeing a humpback whale maybe spouting in the ocean. It's it's absolutely beautiful, and it's evolved a lot since Star Trek Online first came into being over 10 years ago, and they've sort of built on it and evolved it and grown it, and it's an absolutely beautiful place, especially if you're just wanting to have a little stroll around on your character and just soak it all in and feel like you're actually part of Starfleet in that setting. It's gorgeous and it's calming, and it's always a nice place to go to relax.
Yeah, I love it in STO. I love it in the TV and films. It actually does make me want to go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
I believe it's called. It's a reclamation plant. There's the building, and I don't know if it's still there. And it's a Japanese garden. Was the plant area originally? Star Trek. So,
Lovely.
so yeah, yes. One of the places I really want to go to in the United States if I ever come over that far. So
That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
wish
Well, San
it put on
Francisco is
these.
beautiful regardless.
Yeah, no, well, it is.
But especially
Yeah,
if you can find that sort of angle and sort of get the same feeling, that would be really cool. Be
oh,
really
I'd love
cool.
to. Yeah, no, my parents went over there, or they done a cruise around like North and Central America, and it's like they got to San Francisco, and it's like I should have asked them to see if they could find that location, but just got lovely views of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I don't even know what the bit of water is there called, but it was absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not going to say any more. To be honest,
No,
at
it's
the
all good.
moment. So.
Like that is short and sweet. That's my number 4, Starfleet Academy.
Okay.
Cool, so chill.
All right. For my number 4, I went with Ilum, and Ilum is a frozen planet like Hoth. And it's an interesting one for me because it shows up in SWTOR quite a bit, and it's a pretty important one in SWTOR. But it also shows up in the wider canon as well. So we've seen it in Clone Wars. And the reason that it historically was very important is because it's probably the largest source of lightsaber crystals, now called kyber crystals, in the galaxy. Like there are other places, and sometimes a Force user will actually be drawn to this or that planet because there's like a crystal calling to them, depending on which kind of version of the story you're doing. But when it came to just like a planet that was known to have a lot of these crystals, Ilum was the source. Like it was the biggest one by far. And depending on what part of the timeline you're talking about, different things happened during the SWTOR period. The Republic had they had Jedi who had been there for centuries, but the Empire has sort of found out about it, and they try to take some of the crystals for their own. So that's a big thing. In the Clone Wars, and you see actually a couple of episodes where you see like young Padawans who are going to go and get their lightsaber crystal there, which is really cool. But then it shows up in the sequels as well, because they don't really tell you in the movies, but clearly like a lot of the kyber crystals for the Death Star would have come from Ilum, and then for basically the same reason, apparently, Starkiller Base is actually placed there. It actually becomes Starkiller Base, but that's Ilum. It's all the same thing, which is really kind of cool.
And that's what I heard. I didn't know how much to believe that, but yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah,
I'd heard a similar thing that was believable. The fact that you'd need that source of kyber crystal for that kind of power.
Right.
Also, you get to explore a good chunk of Ilum in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, when you're playing Cal Kestis, which I never expected that to happen as we were playing through, and all of a sudden I'm on Ilum climbing into an old Jedi temple to find my kyber crystal again. I thought that was awesome. It was so cool to play.
Yeah, it really is nice. And if you play SWTOR, you go to Ilum. It's one of the prettiest places in SWTOR, because if you look up at the sky, that you can actually see like comets that are going across the sky with trailing bits of ice. There are all kinds of other sort of other sort of space effects going on up there. There's asteroids and various shiny bits and all. It just looks gorgeous. And they really worked hard to make that planet look really cool, and it does. It absolutely does.
I know it's not the most important part in a game is having the sky look brilliant, but it definitely helps, and I suppose that makes a difference between something being good and something being great, I suppose. And
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. That level of detail is fantastic. I kept getting distracted when I was on Nilum because I kept looking up.
Yeah.
Every time that was going around on my speeder, it was just look up. Oh, where am I going? Oh, it's gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's a shame you never got to see that type of visual like replicated in any other media for Ilum either, because I think like the Old Republic's version of it is by far my favorite.
Yeah, it really is. They really did a good job there.
Yeah, if they do another TV series or film before the sequels, I would love to actually have a decent look around them in one of the films or TV shows. That would be nice. But then again, I probably will say that about every single planet in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I definitely said that about Typhon when I heard it was coming up in the Mandalorian. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go over to my number 4. It's another place I enjoy the full a view, and it was actually somewhere I found on the map, not necessarily accidentally, but back when I was doing something for a guild, I was trying to come up with an event, and that was it. It was either I was either going to do something like a hide and seek or some kind of race, and I was trying to find odd places on the map, and I got to Odoron and got up to an area called the King's Pass or around that area, and managed to actually climb up some of the boulders by one of the entrances into that area, and actually get up on top of a hill where you can see over, not necessarily the whole map, but a lot of the map and see the view. But actually look the other way, you're off the map, and it's just like the first time I've ever found an exit to the map. And I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but for me, it was just like, wow. I felt not quite felt like I broke the game, but I felt like it was just like, wow. I found a fault where I can get that out. And
did you try moving your character into that area? That's my next question. Or what happened?
I did. No, it just fell, and it's just like you respawned, and it's and they fall, and so it was. Yeah. I think the thing I ended up doing for a guild was just like literally last place we work, you stay there, I've got to get to this place. I say go, you come and find me, and I was the first to climb up the boulders and get up to where I was. So it because if you move slightly bit, you miss the entrance where you actually can get up. To be honest, I'll try to get a screenshot for anybody watching on YouTube so you can actually see where I'm on about. But
nice.
Yeah, to be honest, it probably only means something to me and probably absolutely nobody else in the world. So,
you could actually set it up as a community challenge. You could post it up and say, right, I'm not going to tell you how to get there. Here's a picture of it. Find your way there, and then send a picture and prove you get there.
Ooh, there's an idea. Actually, I got that idea. Yeah, yeah, definitely in my ideas. Yeah, now, but yeah, that's going to be short and sweet. But yeah, it's furthest east point, nearest down at the furthest east point on Odoron map, which is just.
You've just told everyone where it is.
Nice.
I'm winding you up.
Well, considering I said King's Pass at the beginning, you got the rough idea.
I'll give you that.
So,
I'll give you that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll make that one short and sweet. So I think we're back round to Olympus.
Yes. So my number 3, I'm gonna stick with Star Wars: The Old Republic this time. So this is like pretty much the polar opposite to Mustafar and the Lava Falls, and that is the forest on Tython. So all the wooded area that you can explore, It's mostly based around the Jedi Temple, but it goes up and around a good little bit as well. And again, very similar to Starfleet Academy and STO, I often find myself just clicking the walk button on my keyboard and just taking my Jedi off on a little stroll through the woods. It's just serene, it's green and beautiful. You've got gorgeous waterfalls and rivers flowing, and the music on that planet. It's just so calming. It's second probably for me only to the Manan music when you're on Manan. That KOTOR music, which the first time you got to go back to Manan on the Old Republic, for that flashpoint during the pre-Revan update.
Privilege Shadow of Revan.
Yeah, the prelude. The goosebumps I got when you were arriving on Manan and that music kicks off again. It's just just love it. But yeah, the Tython music's a close second to me for that, and it was just, there's not much more to say apart from it's just such a chill zen area that I like to go off and just relax and clear my thoughts. And on the rare occasions in the Old Republic where I've done roleplay, I've not done it for a little while, but I did go through a phase when the community I had for my guild was a little bit bigger. We'd do regular roleplay sessions, and quite often we would find ourselves, training in the forest or meditating in the Jedi Temple or something like that. It was always very nice. I've got lots of nice memories of that area of the game.
Yeah, gorgeous areas.
Yeah,
it's probably my favorite starter planet, and I'm more than happy to do all the missions and walk everywhere and do it. I don't do it very often, especially with some of the others. I just enjoy that area. Just gorgeous planet. Anything else to add, Chill?
No, I like Tython. Absolutely. Yeah, there is like a datacron that's like a cave that has like a waterfall there as well. And it's just really cool when you find it, and then you can like look out and see all the valley beyond and stuff like that.
It's one of my favorite
really
views. Nice. That is one of my favorite views in the game from that
cave.
cave.
Yeah. So about once a year, the SWTOR will run a like best views of SWTOR, and then they choose different planets and for that year, and then that would be a good one if they do Tython again, to go and find that spot and just take some pictures and send them off to them.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah, love it. Anyway, what is your number 3 pick?
Yeah, 3. I chose Rakata Prime, and so the Rakata are a species, and it's one of those things that's sort of like deep Star Wars lore, where like the Rakata were this very strange species that hardly exist anymore. They exist a few places, and but they mostly died out, and they were losing their connection to the Force, and that was actually like part of this. So a lot of their late history was sort of this desperate attempt to sort of like not lose their connection to the Force, and therefore get wiped out. And Rakata Prime is like their home world essentially. There's a couple of other names. Sometimes it's just called Rakata, and I think it has at least one other name as well. In Star Wars: The Old Republic, it shows up, and they do call it Rakata Prime. And you actually get to go through it, and it's also a place where like there's been some space battles, so you have some crashed starships here. The beings that are there have all gone completely back in technology to very primitive times, but you also have these Revanites, these followers of Revan, who are now there because they're actually taking little pieces of the Star Forge, which is this Rakatan technology that basically sort of self duplicates and stuff like that. And they've been able to take little pieces of the Star Forge and then plant them in people, and it makes them like really strong. They heal really well. It makes them like excellent soldiers. It also kind of like brainwashes them too, because the Star Forge is pretty dark side. Like it's very much, it was a very dark side thing before it got like destroyed. But even these little pieces, because Ricotta technology, at least some of it can sort of self-repair and so on, it never really goes away. So it's always like this sort of little danger thing. And on Ricotta Prime, you have to like go out and try to make it so that they can't do this anymore, and also like stop the people who are sort of the heads of the Revanite faction. And but it just looks really cool because it's this whole jungle, it's this jungle thing with all these like ruins, but you also have these crashed starships that you have to go past as well. And I just love it. I just love how that looks. And also I'm always interested in sort of like things that sort of tell a little bit of like deep history as well. In this case, it's a couple levels of deep history, because you have like 300 years ago and sort of like Revan's original period, when, you know, like there was the big fight that created all these, you know, this sort of starship graveyard, a little bit like on Hoth. But then you also have like this whole deeper story of like the Ricottans, and they've been gone for quite some time, but you know, but their technology is still here and still causing problems.
Yeah, I'm noticing that it's a lot of your previous picks and the lore and stuff, and yeah, actually, I'm loving that. Sorry, Olympus.
No, not at all. Like, I'm kicking myself that I forgot all about Ricotta Prime. I remember the first time that I ever saw it when I played through KOTOR for the first time, and I thought it was such a different sort of change of, I'll call it change of pace, but change of pace and change of scenery from any of the previous planets. Because even if you think of Manan with its gorgeous blue oceans, you were missing the seaside element of it, like the land side of it. Kashyyyk was all dense forest. Tatooine's just a desert. You know, so these all these bleak, or not quite bleak, but some bleak, some samey kind of atmospheres. But Ricotta Prime was just, it was like a paradise planet in comparison to all those other ones.
Right.
Which that's the kind of change of scenery I'm trying to explain. And when I heard that Star Wars: The Old Republic was bringing it back, I was very, very scared that they weren't going to do it justice, and very, very pleased that they were able to. It felt like KOTOR but enhanced. That planet, they did a beautiful job with it.
Yeah.
And seeing elements of the Starforge crashed into the ocean and into the beach was equally really cool.
Yeah, it's that beach area that actually I really liked as well. It's not that the area I live in is like that, but yeah, the area I live is very beach orientated. So like on a smaller scale, it's like Florida. It's like coast on three sides sort of thing, but a lot smaller. But yeah, but it's I love the idea of like being around water in the beach area as well. It just I don't know, maybe reassuring is probably the right word, being near the sea. So
Yep.
anyway, I suppose that's my pick now. Going. This one is probably the first. Yeah, I think it is the first pick we've got that's not actually on a planet. Actually, so mine's on a space station, and mine is a bar called Corks.
Yeah, knew it.
And that's on Deep Space Nine, run by your local friend Ferengi. It's, of course, you're going to get there and be exploited, I'm sure, but at least you're not going to have your arm chopped off, in theory. So that's a good thing. So, but if you're a member of the Federation, it's not the end of the world. They got some funny thing about not having money, or it's done differently. But yeah, you've got your dartboard. You've got holodecks there. You've got very wide variety of beverages.
Your Darbo table.
Darbo table is a bit of gambling. Yeah, you can go there, have a meal, have a talk with friends, family, whoever. It's actually, if you want to go do horrible things around there, that's fine. There's a load of shady dealings there. But you also can go there as friends and have a nice relax, and probably not other than being exploited by the barman. It's you can have a nice day out. I'm not selling this place very well, am I? But it, yeah, for me, it's one of those nicer places, friendlier places, but not too boring. If that's what I think, you can go and have a relax, but you're not going to get bored to death like you might do in a couple of the other bar locations in Star Trek. So, um, I know Olympus has watched it, but I don't know. Chill, are you? Have you? How much are you? What I've watched Deep Space Nine at all in Star Trek?
I did watch. I think most of it. I don't think I've ever quite caught like the whole series, but I definitely watched like a lot of it back in the day. But it's been years now. Like I think most of the episodes I would have seen like at the time, but I have not revisited it. So, but I still remember that sort of feeling. Like it gives you this really cool feeling of just. Of like sort of like people of different types coming together and like it was a really interesting idea for to make it different because it's still an interesting place uh, for Star Trek stories, but it's not another ship going out into the void. It's something different. It was really
Yeah,
clever.
yeah, that's the thing. I suppose you have the people coming to this location rather than,
Hmm.
let's say, the Enterprise, where you're going to somewhere, and yeah, it's for the odd guest, but it's not that wide variety of people. Where here you can have everything from your Bajorans to your humans to your Ferengi's to Trills, Cardassians, Klingons, all having different kind of atmosphere day to day. Yeah, in that one, uh, and yeah, similarities. Um, Olympus, you got any thoughts?
I will round this off with a perspective that Quark probably has in the early seasons of Deep Space Nine, not the later ones. His character develops. Rule of acquisition number 21. Never place friendship above profit. I think that sums up Quark's bar very nicely.
Nice.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's and to be honest, I suppose that sums up a bar. To be honest, or a pub. Yeah,
Very much.
it's yeah. So, um, in that case, shall we go back again round to the beginning? Number two picks
Yes,
already.
yes, yes,
Olympus.
yes. So I'm going to go back to Star Trek. This time to the recent Star Trek Picard series, although you do see this place in Star Trek TNG at the very start of season 4, episode 2, Family, where we are going to Chateau Picard. It's in France. I can't remember where in France. I want to say the south, but I'm not 100% certain of that. It is Picard's family home on Earth. During the Next Generation, it's his brother and his family who live there and run the chateau. And very tragically, during Star Trek Generations early in, we find out that his brother and his nephew die in a fire at the chateau. And then when we jump 20, 30 years after Nemesis to the Picard series, you see Picard now running the chateau and living there. It's this beautiful house. The vineyard alongside it is what you'd expect a vineyard to look like, although it's really, really cool seeing all of the high-tech autonomous technology just doing the grape collecting itself and doing like beaming all the grapes out and beaming it into whatever canvases they're going into. That's quite cool to see some of that, how we envision that to look like in the future. But the house is this gorgeous, grand old house from pre-World War II times. I think it was there a bit longer than that, but it was used in World War II, initially by the resistance, then by the Nazis, if I remember the story in season 2 correctly. It's just this. It's exactly where I expected Picard to end up living. But I just love the architecture. I love how rooted he is to the place. Like he's found his place outside of a starship, and I've lost my train of thought. But it's I'll round off. It's a lovely scene. You've probably gathered a theme to my picks this time around, which is unusual. I don't normally go down this type of theme, but it's all mostly, with the exception of Mustafar and probably my last pick, all calm, chill out places that I've picked as my favourites. And Chateau Picard certainly feels like a place you can put your feet up, read a book, have a glass of wine, and have a merry little time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's in the bar in France, and just a quick Google, and it's near the Swiss border, roughly mid-east of France, according to this.
Almost south.
Yeah, almost
Not quite,
there.
but almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be a little bit nearer to where I live, but no, you're going to have to take the ferry and have probably a day trek to get down there. But hey ho.
Yeah,
no,
that's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It's actually a gorgeous location. I did consider it. But yeah, and again, I'd love to be able to sit there and just have a relax. It's Anyway, chill.
Okay. Sure. For number 2, this one is very specific to SWTOR. It's a planet that I don't believe it has a lot of other side connections to wider lore, at least not directly, but it's Belsavis. And Belsavis is a very interesting planet in SWTOR. All 8 classes will go there. And it's weird because like when you're on it, it's gonna feel very much like a jungle planet, but it's actually like these little circles of jungle area that are actually on what is mostly an ice planet. And there's some volcano areas that sort of explain it, but not necessarily, because there's also the fact that there's like this old Rakatan like this whole another Rakata connection, I know, but the Rakatans were here and they sort of like buried this whole species that they wanted to sort of punish for like basically rebelling against them when they controlled the whole galaxy. And like a lot of Rakatan things, it persisted through the years, but the Republic, not really knowing what they had, just realizing they had this planet with like these sort of like little controllable areas of green in amongst like this whole wasteland that no one would be able to traverse because the ice sheet is like 100 meters thick. And they ended up building a planet prison there. So it's both a planet prison and sort of this jungle world / ice world, and it's also got like all this Rakatan and craziness going on under the surface in like the lower depths. And the Republic at least was smart enough that they sort of realized that something was going on with these vaults, and they basically sealed them off. But then once the Empire has found out about, and then they kept the planet prison like secret because a lot of them were Sith. But the Empire eventually finds out where it is, and at the time that we're doing all the story here, the Empire sort of like created this little jailbreak. So like everything's gone crazy on this planet. It's absolutely insane, story wise. All kinds of what you're doing on this planet varies wildly from story to story to story. And it also looks very cool because like you're going around all these jungle areas, but in every vista, in every horizon is this ice sheet that just goes up like a mountain. It's just, and they're always flat. They're always straight up, like basically they're all cliffs of ice everywhere around you in the area. So, and it feels, if it's not like anything else I know, like anywhere fiction, let alone like Star Wars or Star Trek or anything like that. It's completely bananas, and I just love that planet. So I chose it, even though like no one outside of SWTOR, no one would know this planet. I don't think you would have heard of the like Rick say Rickatas. There are connections and stuff like that, but it's a very SWTOR thing, and it's absolutely one of my favorite places in the game for sure.
It's absolutely beautiful, and I love the uniqueness of it. To your point as well, Chill. It's we said earlier on that Star Wars has a majority of planets with individual biomes, and here's a planet with not just more than one biome, but it's two biomes totally mixed in and shuffled
and
up
completely
together.
at odds with each other.
Yeah,
completely at odds with each other.
But it compensates for having the theme, though, being the prison planet. So, which is I love that concept in itself. Is a prison planet. I don't know if they've got their ideas from Australia or not, but it's thinking about British history. But
well, on a
Right.
galactic scale, a planet would be the equivalent of an island.
Yeah,
Basically, yeah. And I know that planet prison tropes are sort of a thing, and there's been other things too, like there are in other Star Wars things, there's like planet essentially ships or orbital stations and stuff like that are completely just a prison, and the idea is that that way they can't really go anywhere. That's unless you get a shuttle or something, there's just no way to escape. So and Belsavis is the same way. It's like unless you can get off that planet, you're just on that planet. And it's a completely bananas, and it also looks really cool from above because it's all white, but it has these little green circles of different sizes that only take up really a small percentage of the total surface of the world. But then there's these little, and then they sort of connect them very, very just a little bit. Like there'll be a little road, but the cliffs will still be like hovering above you the whole time. And it feels even that part, it feels sort of like it's beautiful, but it feels very dangerous too. And for a while, it's like the first few times I played it, I was like, okay, so I didn't really think too hard. I just thought it looked cool. And then I was like, well, how is this happening? And then I thought, okay, well, it's the volcanism going on, because especially in the later parts, like there's volcanoes everywhere, but there's not volcanoes in every part of it. And it's like, how are these other parts like still green and warm? And it pretty clearly has to do something with the Rakatans who were there at some point. Like it's got to do. I think they never really reveal that, but it feels like that's sort of like a thing they were sort of like intimating when they made this planet, is like something's going on that's keeping these areas, free of ice. And it's probably the Rakatans, influence from when they were there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I like that theory. They could have been experimenting with those heat fishes. They could, keep me right from a lore perspective. Was it the Rakatans that created the Starforge, or was the Starforge there before them? So they did build it.
It was one of their
been a while.
technologies.
It's been a while since I've played KOTOR, so maybe they were there experimenting with that power in the planet before they got to the point of being able to build the Starforge, because that's obviously taking energy directly from the sun, isn't it? Which is another sort of fusiony type reaction going on. Oh, I'm gonna go and have a good proper think about this now. That's got the cogs turning. Oh, I love those theories.
I love it. Oh, and I'm just thinking, I'm having a completely boring pick after this again. I have to follow Chill there. But my ones this time is a bridge. It's a bridge of a ship. My pick, and for me, this is going to be my starship, my Enterprise, not the original. It's the Enterprise D bridge, even though some of it's it's a image of its time, I suppose like the original Enterprise. And I know some places in it reminds me of a rover car, or the insides of a rover car was that wooden upholstery around the bridge seating area where Wolf stands.
Look, just don't diss the carpets and you're good. Continue.
Yes, yes. No, but yeah, I just love the setup of the bridge. It's like you've got the con and another front seat, whatever you want to call that. You've got the 5 seats across the Is it 5? No, 6. So it's the captains, first officers.
1,
And you've
2,
got
3, 4, 5. It's 5 in the middle.
5. Yeah, that's third. Oh yeah, because you have the spare, the captains and the 2 spare ones each in the little stalls. You got the area where the tactical is, and then the typical screens at the back where you can do engineer and science and any other things they want. Captain's ready room off to the side. I think there's at least 3 turbo lifts, and I just like that aesthetic. For me, the Star Trek bridge design is amazing, and I suppose it's like having your own, each person having their own doctor. This one's my starship, and it's the place that makes me feel at home when I'm watching any of these series. That it's like if I go there,
Yeah.
it's that makes me in my happy place. It's that on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. So, but yeah. I'm sure Olympus probably has something to add to this, but
Oh, I do.
I don't know
I could
if
be
Joe
here.
definitely does.
Oh, yeah.
I could be here all day, so I'll let Chill go first, and then I'll round it off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, for me, like the next generation Enterprise, like it has a special place. I mean, I was in college when it was showing live on TV, and I was watching it every week with my girlfriend, who later became my wife, and so it has a sort of a special place. And there's so many good stories that have been told, especially on that one. On all of them, I liked Voyager too, and and there's a lot of other great Star Trek bridges out there for sure. But for me, like the Next Generation Enterprise bridge is really special. It was really well designed. It took a lot of the look and feel of the original show's bridge, but it also very much became its own thing. And it was just it's a very nice example of design. And it also, just because of the stories that get told there, there's a very special thing that happens because of that. So I good choice. I like that one a lot.
Absolutely. And Ben, this is a Star Trek that I grew up with. It was my first Starship Enterprise, so it will forever be my favorite. The show will forever be my favorite. Again, to your point, especially once they got into season 3, they had some good stories in 1 and 2, but they hit their stride with season 3. So especially from then on, so many unique and phenomenal stories were told, and so many of them on that bridge, as you said.
Yeah.
And you know how your own head canon gets to working things. You've got the Enterprise and the Enterprise A, which was very much towards just after the birth of the Federation, when they're still exploring this massive galaxy ahead of them, through the B and the C, to Enterprise D, where they know a lot of their galaxy by that point. They've explored a lot of it. It's more dedicated to sort of research, comfort, and deeper space exploration by that point. And I like to think the aesthetics and the way they evolved it kind of fit with that, because after the likes of the Dominion War and the Borg and that kind of stuff, you see the design shift again to, I guess in some sense you should call it more of the 21st century view of these sleek, super techie bridges, which again in my head canon I put down to, they've molded it more to focus on defense and combat. Again, they've still got the scientific purposes, but they've had to gear everything up to be a little bit more militaristic again in light of those threats, because it's a more dangerous time that they're in. So that's how I let that work for me. But it's just to go back to the D. It's so warm, and I'm gonna go back to, it's warm, it's chill. You can put your feet up and relax on that bridge. It just holds so many amazing stories and amazing memories for me growing up with Star Trek. That's why it's my absolute favorite. Love that pick, Ben.
Yeah.
No, well, as I said, it's my home place for Star Trek is there. So back to the starter for all our number 1 picks, Olympus.
So this is where I kind of break my rule. and it is kind of. I'll let you guys decide how much. So, Star Wars Outlaws came out very recently. I've clocked well over 60 hours on the game. I absolutely love it. If there's anything that I'd say, I'm not being promoted by Ubisoft, by the way, before we go any further. But if there's anything I would say is to anyone watching is do not listen to the hate that's being spouted out online. Take an opportunity, because even if you really want to give it a try, you can access it through Ubisoft Plus for a month or something, so you're not paying £100 for a game, right? If you wanted to try it out, but just give the game a chance, because it is, from the modern Star Wars gaming perspective, the best Star Wars game I have ever played. It is utterly phenomenal. So that pitch over, there's like 4 key planets that you get to explore, all open world, all with their own their own quirks and almost their own personalities, their own biomes. They're beautiful. And my number 1 pick is one that I thought I would love the least, and I thought I'd never be there, because you see so much of it in Star Wars. It's become the joke of Star Wars that nearly every single show, every single movie, every single game has to have this planet in it. And that is, of course, Tatooine. And I'll tell you what, the way they've designed the open world map on this game, Tatooine's my favourite. And I did not expect it. You've got so many lush, beautiful planets to explore, and they're all wonderful. But Tatooine is hitting me in this game in a way I never thought it would. Each area of the map, if you could call it an area, has its own quirks and characteristics. So you've got Mos Eisley in terms of the actual sort of big city area itself, which is all condensed in, so you've got the city feel. Then as soon as you exit Mos Eisley, you're out into an open plain. It's not quite harsh desert, but it is literally open plain. You can see for miles. You can see stuff relative in distance, canyons and cliffs and whatnot off in the distance. And if anything, there's a few hills and bumps and a few surprises along the way, so that's quite fun to sort of explore a little bit. But then depending what direction you go, you've got different settings again. Before you know it, you're in this maze of canyons that you're riding through on your speeder, which just instantly reminded me of the pod racing in The Phantom Menace. And it's so fun to try and ride through that as fast as you can and hit your handbrake and do some skids and whatnot. That's a lot of fun. And there's other areas like that too. There's some cliffy parts that you can jump off of and do some tricks, and it's just they've designed it in such a fun way that it's not just a flat desert that you're riding across. It's got so many nooks and crannies and so many places to explore, and it really feels like a unique planet. Even when you're going out to the Dune Sea, and it's just this flat open, that is literally just flat open sand. When the further you're driving out to it, like everything's in the distance, and you think there's nothing much going on here. This massive big worm jumps up out of nowhere and tries to eat you. You're just like, I need to get out of here now. It's just they did it beautifully. And I'll round off just by saying, because you had to do it, and I purposely didn't YouTube it because I wanted to find it by myself without looking for it. And one day I did. I found the Lars homestead, and I got to do the whole thing where I stood just outside the homestead looking out at the twin suns setting, and I could just imagine the music in my head, and it was just beautiful.
That's cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you like that. And to be honest, if we hadn't had something from Tatooine in, I suppose I would have been disappointed. But
it's just, I was so surprised that because I thought that if there was one planet that I'd be like, okay, it would have been Tatooine, and they've totally blown me away with it.
Yeah. Have you had any chance to play that, Jill? Because I haven't.
I have not, but I have watched some people play a little bit, and it's a gorgeous game. It really is pretty, and yeah, they clearly put a lot of heart into things like locations. And yeah, I probably should pick it up, but I have not yet.
No, I haven't either, unfortunately. But yeah, I've seen a lot of play, and it does, some of it does look nice. I know it's had some mixed reviews, but anyway, that's not here. Positivity. Anyway,
Yes, ignore the
no,
hate.
yeah. No, I'm glad you picked that, and I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. Um, oh, in that case, I think it's Chill's go for number one pick now, isn't it?
Right. Well, yeah, when I first started thinking, and I wanted to make sure that one of my places was an ecumenopolis, because I love that word. And basically just is the fancy word for city planet. So Coruscant counts, of course. And I could have chosen Coruscant. I was definitely thinking about it. I mean, there's a lot to say about Coruscant. It's a pretty cool world, both in the movies, but in SWTOR and also in lots of other canon, of course. But there's a couple of others that are interesting too. Terrace is one that I thought of as well. Terrace you start off in KOTOR. It's a city planet, and you actually get to experience the destruction of Terrace as like the sort of the big first act in KOTOR. Sorry about spoilers, but it kind of happens early on. So, but in any case, that's pretty amazing, and it's a lot of fun. And of course, KOTOR is such a good game that a lot of people have a lot of good feelings about it, and they brought it back, Terrace and SWTOR, and because there's 300 years of that have gone on. You actually get to experience like the destroyed Terrace, and you actually go around Terrace itself, and the Republic is sort of, it's right on the edge of actually Sith territory, but the Republic is like trying to rebuild Terrace because it was a Republic world, not a Sith world, and but they haven't made a lot of progress. Let's put it that way. So it's all just there's huge, these huge structures that are all mangled and destroyed, and hardly anything new has been built. And the governor Suresh, who is trying to rebuild Terrace, sort of in charge of that, eventually becomes the head of the Republic. So there's sort of like this interesting sort of political thing there too. And I thought both of those, but my heart went to Nar Shaddaa, the smuggler's moon. And Nar Shaddaa is a great little planet. It is technically a moon. It actually, if you look up in the sky and over Nar Shaddaa, you actually see another planet that you can go to in SWTOR, which is Hutta, which is the Hutt home world, pretty much, or at least one of their main planets. And the Nar Shaddaa is the smuggler's moon. It's a little moon that's been completely built up. It's a little city, but because it's Hutt run, it feels very different from like Coruscant or city world that you've been to. It's basically like crime world / Las Vegas / city world. Like, it's crazy and it's wild, and there's tons of like bright lights and signs everywhere, and criminals running amok everywhere. The Hutts are happy to control everything. When you read about it, it's like clearly like the moon is barely hanging on in terms of like its survivability. Like the atmosphere is like slowly degrading because like the Hutts they don't care about that sort of thing. So like in the next few centuries, it would probably die off unless something comes along to recharge it. And it's all smog and crime, and I freaking love it. And you can get strongholds in SWTOR, which are like little places where your character can go that you quote unquote own. And then you get to look out at the different areas, and they have a bunch of them in the game. But my main one is the Nar Shaddaa one. I just love it there. So I had to go with that one, even though Coruscant and Terrace are both really, really good too. But my heart belongs to Nar Shaddaa.
Yeah, I think it's the total opposite to, or not quite the total opposite, but on criminal planets, it's the opposite to Tatooine. It's like Tatooine, near us, damn it, anything goes. Whereas Nar Shaddaa, it's more of like your mob boss, whatever the mob boss says goes.
Yeah.
More of an organized criminal place. Actually, I don't think we've seen Nar Shaddaa in live action, to my knowledge, have we?
That's a fair point.
No, it does show up in Clone Wars for
Yeah.
sure, though. We see that one. What's that one hut with all the extra colors and stuff? He's really cool.
Oh. He's got a very unique voice, because I know exactly who you're talking
he's like
about.
what's his name? Yeah. I think he's based on that one writer, Truman Capote. I think he's based on Truman Capote a little bit, but yeah. Anyway, there's a few scenes with him, and I'm pretty sure that those happen on Nar Shaddaa. And yeah, it has sort of the same feel for sure.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see it in live action, and yeah, I suppose if I was going to compare it to a city or a location, Las Vegas probably would be what would come to mind in my head.
Absolutely, yeah. From the colors, if nothing else, and at least historically, Las Vegas was a crime city. Now it's legalized crime.
Fair enough. I was waiting for you to just go, oh, never mind. No, I love it. Any thoughts, Olympus?
Oh, I can't add anything else. It was just definitely a brilliant pick. Yeah. There was another setting that reminded me a little bit of Nar Shaddaa, but not quite the same. And I liked the comparison. It was the first time in Clone Wars, I think it was, and you see it a few times afterwards in different media, where you get to see almost like the underworld of Coruscant. So once you go down, I've forgotten what they're called now. The big circles like bore into the planet.
Sometimes they're called levels and stuff like that, but there's probably a better term for it too.
The further down there you go, the more corrupt,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, right, exactly. They the people who in charge don't really care about those levels, and they don't care about the people who live in them, and it's kind of, it feels like that it's like a really good way to sort of like pick beneath the surface, like, because Coruscant, you see the Jedi Temple and the Senate, and it's all very sort of like the wealthy live up top where they can actually see sunlight. But as soon as you go down a few levels and there's no sunlight anymore, you get to see like what is really sort of happening to the people, and like what the people in charge care about and what they don't care about. And it makes for some interesting sort of metaphors, but also some interesting storytelling. And it also kind of lets you know like what's going on in the heads of the people in charge too, because they feel the same way about like the Outer Rim. Like, if they're technically in the Republic, but they're in the Mid Rim or it's like they almost might as well not be in the Republic at all. And it's really the same down in Coruscant itself. You just go down a few levels, and it becomes it's pretty wild down there.
It's almost like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds vaguely familiar, but yeah, I never thought about the light bit, but yeah, the lights without the light coming down there, I can imagine it's especially if there's a power outage or something like that. That's going to happen occasionally. That's like, not seeing a thing at all. It's
right.
Like the oceans.
Right, and it's a pretty old planet too. I mean, according to probably where humanity started, and then just sort of became a city planet over time. But also, like, there's old Gree technology that actually runs the planet, like keeps the atmosphere breathable, and other sort of things happening so that's actually livable. In SWTOR, at least, it's based on Gree technology, and you get to see that both in the Coruscant storylines. If you do some of the world arc on Coruscant, you'll see that, and also in the novel Deceived, you'll actually see some things that are below the surface of Coruscant as well, because it takes place around the attack on Coruscant by the Sith Empire. Yeah, so there's some good stuff there too. Yeah, that's actually another reason why I like Deceived so much, is because you get to see a lot of stuff about Coruscant and like under the surface and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know we don't talk, not necessarily talking about Ahsoka because that hasn't come up in here, but I know they had that episode where they done it completely around the top of Coruscant, and they had the highest mountain. I think it was the highest mountain or second highest, whatever, just peaking at the top. And it's just like
Right.
how much I actually love seeing other people who were living on Coruscant, even if they were former Empire employees and stuff like that. But it was,
It,
yeah, it was nice to see that that
yeah.
normal life
Mhm.
so going on. Anyway, after that, I suppose I should go to my number one pick, and this is our first duplicate of the evening.
There's always one.
And there's always one, yeah, and that's again the Starfleet Academy grounds.
Ah, nice.
There, it's
Fair enough. Yeah.
again from Star Wars Online as well. Yeah, you get to go. It's just that I don't quite live in the middle of nowhere, but I live in the country, and for me, the greenery, the water, and the grass everywhere is. I'm not going to say important to me, but it is something that makes me feel at home. And yeah, even if it is a formal garden, you get to wander around with all the trees and lakes, and yeah, and the bridge nearby and the river. Even though it's Golden Gate Bridge, I'm sure it's a lot bigger than the bridge, the Tamar Bridge. It's I go over a bridge every day to work, and it's just like, yeah, it's one of those again. Yeah, makes me feel at home without being home, and it's just like
Yeah.
enjoyable place that it every time I see it just makes me happy. I know Olympus went into it earlier, or a bit more, but do any of you have any more to say about Starfleet Academy?
No, I'm just really happy that you chose it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent choice for sure.
Cool. So, in that case, let's go on quick scores on the doors. This, I believe, or if I've done my marking right as I went along, is a 10-5 victory for Star Wars. So,
Well,
Star Wars.
I mean, but hey, come on. It's not like I
Yeah.
come from a Star Trek podcast, so.
No, which is fine. No,
To be fair, we
yeah,
could have both gone Star
nothing
Trek
much.
the whole way though, and then totally.
That's true, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we have had people on who have picked 5 Star Trek things.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Which there's no rules on if you don't have to mix it up. It does not matter.
Okay, good.
It's all a bit of fun, and we've mentioned Star Wars: The Old Republic so many times during this.
Nice.
That it's fun.
I'm actually so happy that the Star Wars: The Old Republic got so much love in this episode. It really deserves it. I've loved playing that game since it released. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah, and I love the game too. I do. I've been playing it this time, and absolutely, like, if you like Star Wars at all, and even if you're not an MMO guy, like, Star Wars: The Old Republic plays very well as sort of a single player experience, and you can actually do, even free to play, you can actually do most of the game just running around solo doing stuff, and it's absolutely doable that way. And there's tons of story. It's well written. It actually broke the Guinness Book of World Records record for most voice acting in a game, and it still holds that record actually because it's all voice acted. There's no clicking on a mission and then reading 2 paragraphs. It's all like to start a mission, you click on someone and then you actually just talk to them, and so it's all voiced. And there are like literally hundreds of voice actors in the game, and because and so like even as a solo experience, it's like really, really interesting and fun to do. So yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, definitely. Olympus, do you have anything else to add at the moment?
Honourable mentions.
Yes, that's shall we do. I'm going to quickly go over this because I am conscious of time. I'm going to say I'm going to give a quick shout out to Yavin 4 and the temple there, and appearance in the films and thing.
Yep.
And
shows up in SWTOR too.
It does.
Well,
Yeah,
not the rebellion. Well, sort of the any one of the
Yeah.
temples does, and you do go to Yavin 4 for sure. But this is,
Cool.
3,000 years before the rebellion.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely. I want to also shout out to the Sarlacc pit on Tatooine and the walls
Mhm.
around Anchorhead, where I had fun trying to get the Datacron on there as well. Which is
Yes.
Spoiler alert for Star Wars Outlaws. You get to crawl into a dead Sarlacc.
oh,
That's
Cool.
cool.
Nice.
yeah, it is. Chill, you got any honourable mentions?
Yeah, well, I kind of gave mine one because I wanted to do an. I did mention terraces. I guess those are sort of my my backups. But there's a lot of places. And if I had to pick a Star Trek place, it probably would be the Bridge of the Enterprise from Next Generation. So just good. That was an excellent choice.
It sure was.
Yeah.
I won't go into
Okay.
detail on any of these. I'll just list through them. So I had for honorable mentions Ilum, the Jedi Temple on Tython, the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, the Senate on Coruscant, Kashyyyk from Revenge of the Sith and KOTOR, Dantooine from KOTOR and Star Wars: The Old Republic, the Endar Spire from KOTOR. I know I technically could say Star Wars: The Old Republic as well, but you only get a small
Right.
section of it in there. It was so cool to see though with the KOTOR music.
Yeah, it was fun to see it. Yeah, that's right. They use the music.
Yeah, they do. And then on to Star Trek, Bozeman, Montana from Star Trek Lower Decks, because again, you don't see a lot of it really in First Contact. I love the forest scenes where you've got the Cochrane running away from everyone. That was good. But the Lower Deck scenes that you get in Bozeman are pretty awesome, and it's that it just takes you back to First Contact. The artifact from Star Trek Picard, aka the Borg Cube. Actually, seeing a lot more of the interior of a Borg vessel was awesome. The Enterprise D, of course, and also the Enterprise E, the Sovereign class.
Yeah, love it.
Cool.
Even though I know you have a lot more viewers than us, Chill, I'm sure. Want to give yourself a shout out for where they can find you and what you do and where, etc.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of a
with
spiel on the
Ootinicast.
Ootinicast.
Yeah, exactly. The Ootinicast, we do it every other Wednesday live at twitch.tv/Ootinicast. So you can watch us live if you want. We take the raw video, we put that up on YouTube afterwards. So usually that'll go up Wednesday night typically. And then we take the audio, we clean that up, and then that goes out as a podcast the day after. So it's a podcast on, the Apple Podcasts, and usually the other aggregators pick us up as well. Or like I say, you can pick us up on YouTube if you want to see like the video version, or catch us live. That's always fun too.
Olympus, where can we find you?
Oh, so you can find me at the names at Olympus0511. Socials, you'll catch me on Twitter. Then from a streaming and content point of view, YouTube and Twitch. And a little bit occasionally on TikTok. I don't put too much on there at the minute, but on and off I'll throw some videos in there. And I think that covers everywhere I am at the minute. No, also I now write occasionally for Trek Central.
Trek Central.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, my brain just went into slow mode. Yeah, I write for Trek Central, a series of Star Trek articles. I've got a couple up at the minute and another couple on their way very soon. So you'll be able to find me and a whole host of other articles and latest news about all things Star Trek going on at the moment.
Oh, thank you. So
Very
you can
cool.
find me at TrekWars and Fantasy on YouTube, Twitch. I've got to get back into streaming again. I'm a bit sporadic at the moment. I'm on Twitter, TrekWars Fantasy, because I can't have enough letters to put an and in there. Occasionally, I'll put some shorts on TikTok as well. And we do this on a podcast, and that will be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So,
Right.
and Duels Across the Stars. So, if you like the audio instead thing, and we've got 24 other episodes which are not time sensitive. So, he's coming there. Listen, so.
I cannot believe we're on 25 episodes. That's amazing.
I know. Wow. Yeah, and nearly coming up to our year anniversary as well.
It will be,
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. Special thank you to Chill, and I suppose may the force be with you always.
Thanks
May
for
the
having
force
me.
be with you.